Well, originally I wanted to do a placement year. I had a couple successful like offers, but I also didn't want to take the year out at the same time. I wanted the consistency, like the continuity of being with the same people that I know in the same cohort and things like that. But I also wanted the lived experience of working with an organization. But then, luckily, the department came out with the placement module, which was perfect for me because that way I could continue studying at uni, but also get the experience that I want. And I feel like all departments kind of need that option for people who don't want to take the whole year out, um, but they still want that kind of experience. So obviously throughout the module that becomes the focus, outreach and engagement, and we learn about it. And I could see how it aligned with what I wanted to do anyway. So for me, I wanted to have experience in kind of educational settings and with students and things like that. So that in itself is outreach and engagement in the ways that those like that community is
Me
targeted.
was I really enjoy learning through doing. And so I thought this just looked like a fantastic opportunity that I would very much be able to apply what I've learned through, essays and writing reports, but also actually be able to apply some of the psychological knowledge that I've learned and other skills that I've gained from other areas. And I just thought it looked fantastic. And I didn't really want to take a whole year to do a placement. So this was just perfect. Yeah.
The structure was actually quite helpful for me in third year. A lot of my other modules were really content heavy. So having this module be less content heavy, more seminar heavy, so a lot of discussion, it was more engaging in that sense, and allowed me to kind of manage my time across the different modules as well. I think it was quite a unique structure having a speaker for every week as well, and that's not something that I experienced in my other psychology modules, um, but definitely benefited from, because it's also a networking opportunity as well. Because if you like what the speaker said, you can also follow up with them through email and stuff. Enjoyed the assessment. Um, there were two parts to it. The first was to create a poster, and the second was to kind of develop on the poster but in a written format and write a report on your reflections of the placement that you had. um I like this because it's subjective. It means that there's no right or wrong answer with how you choose to like express your placement. With the posters, we all had to engage with each other's posters, so we had to write down some, like, ask a question about someone's poster, about someone's placement experience. So it actually created a good connection across the cohort, and I appreciated that. I really liked the written side of it as well, because we were given clear guidance and students like guidance. So having that guidance was really great because it meant we felt supported throughout it. Um, and again, there was that freedom. But at the same time, we touched on a lot of the theory that we learned in the seminars. So we were able to incorporate the theory that we had learned throughout the module as well into our written report and into our presentation.
We had mainly seminars, and so I really enjoyed that we had a guest speaker at pretty much each seminar because it was just interesting to learn about different areas. I hadn't in the past thought about being like an outreach engagement officer, for example. But now it's like, oh yeah, I'd love to do that. And so just hearing what different people do and how they don't necessarily take a straight route to where they are, I just think was fantastic. And then to go more into kind of the theory side and be able to kind of ask questions about the reading or other things that we were covering in our placements, I just thought was fantastic. So I really enjoyed it. And at first I was a bit kind of thrown because we didn't really have lectures. And I was like used to the lecture seminar kind of setup, but honestly I loved it and I thought it was just brilliant. It was good that we were assessed using a presentation and a report, because we had some practice in writing reports, even though the report was actually very different to something that I'd written before. But we had an idea of the language that we should use and the way that we should maybe evaluate. So we kind of already had some skills. We were just applying them in a slightly different way, but still in a report format. And then I really enjoyed the presentation because I think the way it was done, in terms of we didn't have to talk all the time, I thought was really inclusive, because those who were maybe didn't feel comfortable or confident talking, it removed that barrier. So I thought it was a really fantastic way.
I did a 10-week placement with Think Higher, and they are an organisation that aims to promote widening participation in secondary school students, sixth form students. And they did this when I was working with them. They did this in a couple ways. The first way was by creating this kind of after school hub for students who maybe didn't have access to kind of like quiet learning spaces or equipment. They were able to come to this space run by Think Higher and just study there for a couple hours or meet new people. So it was great to see that. And I was able to kind of go there, facilitate some sessions and things like that. I think that was really fun. So a couple of things I did was, one of them was a kind of like CV workshop. That was great. I went to a college and helped a couple of people with their CVs and their personal statements. It was obviously really good because I've been there before. I know how hard it can be. So we did that. I also went to another kind of sixth form school and gave a couple presentations about university and what I do at university and things like that. That was definitely insightful because I did three of the same presentations and with three different groups, and in every group I had to use a different strategy to keep them engaged. I think the first group was just asking some questions. The second group was like getting them to talk to each other, so pair groups, and then by the end of it I just had to give sweets out as like bribes for answering some questions and stuff. But it taught me a lot about thinking quickly on my feet and just problem solving and things like that. And then obviously I did go to the kind of like after school club sessions as well. The second way that they were promoting widening participation was specifically targeting marginalised communities such as Black students in schools, and really talking about or figuring out what forms of racism goes on in secondary schools and in education as a whole, and how can it be tackled. And what they wanted to do was speak to these students and then write a report. And the report is out now, and it has different subsections from, like hair, how hair is policed in school, to microaggressions. So it talks about a lot of these things, and it provides kind of solutions as well.
With the widening participation team at Warwick, and they are some of the nicest people I've had the pleasure of meeting and working with. Like, they're just fantastic. And my project wasn't actually a project I interviewed for, which kind of I found very exciting. But it was a project to challenge the branding that young people were receiving, which was they're the lost generation because of the COVID pandemic. And well, first of all, I don't like the lost generation because I don't believe in that, and I know that's my belief, but I think everyone has something to give, and we've all gained skills during this period, so why haven't young people? And so what was great about my project was I was able to kind of rename the project Hope for the Future, because I very much feel like there is hope for the future. And I got to choose the target audience, and I chose 16 to 18-year-olds because I just thought, oh my word, what they have been through. They've had to go through the beginning of high school and now they're doing their GCSEs, or they've gone through their GCSEs and now they're doing A levels and now they're thinking about university. Like, they're huge transitions, huge changes. And so I just thought I really wanted to get in touch and hear from them. Just hear, okay, what skills have they gained? How have they found the pandemic? What would they find would benefit them and support them for the future? And so I got to create and disseminate a survey to the target audience, and they were all on widening participation programs. And then I ended up creating the resources. At first, we hoped to co-create, but because of COVID and not being able to go into schools and difficult uptake, I created the resources based on their responses. And so, yeah, it was a really, really positive thing. And it was all about showcasing their skills, what they gained, but also in a way that supports them for the future. And I just really enjoyed it.
I think that so it clarified what the definitions of these things were. And then also talking about evaluation. I think that's something that I might have overlooked. Now I guess I see the importance of evaluating methods that you're using within an organization. And then we also had the models and things, theory of change models and stuff like that. So these are things that I had to use quite soon after the placement, because I ended up starting my own kind of organization, and now I'm thinking about how am I going to evaluate it and things like that. So I'm going to be going back to the lectures to retake notes and apply what I learned to my real life. Yeah.
Just the whole process, to be honest, in terms of, you kind of think, okay, right, you plan this, you do this by that point, you do this by that point, and then you reach your goal. Well, it never works like that because we're working with people. So it's never going to be that straightforward. Things happen like pandemics, or people get poorly, or people take holidays. And so then you've got to fit that into your schedule, and you might not have the uptake that you planned for, or people might not feel comfortable with certain things. And so, or like timings, like you have to work around your organization and your target audience. And so there's so many different things that you have to slot in, and you can't think of everything. You can try, and that's the main thing, is you try to think of everything and you try your best. But I think just the whole process was really interesting, and I learned a lot from it. One of the things that scared me the most about my placement at the beginning was the flexibility, because I was like, oh no, I'm used to, we get given an assignment, we work towards that assignment, we hand it in, bingo, bango, done. Whereas this isn't like that. It's like, okay, right, we're going to try and achieve this in this timeline. But then obviously you have all those other factors, and so it might not go quite as you think. You might not be able to achieve as much as you thought. But I think being able to reflect and notice that you have still achieved, you have still made a difference, I think is really important. And so I learned that things aren't as straightforward as you kind of hope.
Because, the placement I'm doing the placement with other modules. And at the time I had 5 modules in one term. It was just a lot of like on the go, making sure I had read the paper for the other module before heading out on placement with this organization, being honest and open about when I couldn't commit to something because I had other things going on. And just, so communication with the team as well was really important. I think another thing that was really essential, and a lot of people have like told me this as well, is that I ask questions a lot, and they appreciate that I ask questions. I think being comfortable with not knowing everything was very important, and it allowed people to know that I'm willing to learn as well. So I would say that was also something that I've learned going forward as well, is you don't need to act like you know everything. People would prefer you be honest about not knowing something than pretend to know something and then you don't do it correctly. So I would say that, and then just being creative as well. being creative in the role, being creative in like your different problem solving skills and stuff.
Well, one of the things that I've learned is that time can be a brilliant thing, but can also be a really frustrating thing, because sometimes, you know, you want to be able to wait until people are in a better position to engage, but equally you got to deliver by a certain point. And so then you got to kind of think of an alternative. And in a way, the project worked out perfectly, because it meant that the target audience still got their resources. I could do them in a more flexible manner because I wasn't going into schools. I think also what I've learned is that all you can do is do your best. And sometimes it doesn't turn out the way you want it to or how you envisioned, but that doesn't mean that you haven't made a difference. And I think it can also show a different way of working, like having to be online or hybrid. And when I was doing the module and I was learning all these different things about theory of change and just public engagement and writing an evaluative report, well, I was also helping with a local organisation who had asked me to write their evaluative report for their project. And at first I was thinking, I'm not quite sure what they want from me, but from what I learned during the module, I was able to, after the module, produce an evaluative report for them for their project. And so it just gave me confidence, like the whole experience. I know I have had a really positive experience. I've really enjoyed it. But it's just given me confidence in my abilities, that I can transfer my skills. I can apply what I have learned. And it's not just, oh, you only write a report or an essay in this situation. Like, you can transfer those skills so easily. And it's opened my eyes up to opportunities and careers that I didn't even think of before. And so now I'm like, oh yeah, I want to do this or I want to do that. And I really enjoy projects and creating them, working on them, engaging audiences. So yeah, it's definitely helped me a lot personally and in terms of employability.